my buzz, but it's not going to break.
We got the light.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tuesday, June 13th. I would like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Hayden City Council. It is 5:02 p.m. We have a call to order. Abby, could you please give a roll call of the council members?
Council President Roeder?
Here.
Councilmember DePriest?
Here.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Council President Roeder to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, do we have any additions or corrections to the calendar tonight? All right, we'll move on. And just so everyone knows, the city clerk and I did not coordinate our outfits tonight, okay? So you didn't get the memo.
Wow.
Our first item is for the consent calendar. Many of you have heard me say this before, but some of you have not. The city of Hayden does business 5 days a week, 9 hours a day. Most of the business that the city of Hayden does requires no approval or other review by council. However, some of the things that the city does require approval or consent of the council. Tonight's items for the consent calendar are number 1A, approval of the October 25, 2022 city council meeting minutes. 1B, the approval of the October 25th, 2022 city council meeting minutes. 1C, the approval of the April 11th, 2023 city council meeting minutes. 1D, approval of the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment facility upgrades payment request. 1E, acceptance of Hayden Opti Land Holdings LLC sewer access easement. 1F, the approval of the change order for the Sheriff's Boat Slip project. 1G, the approval of the Doherty Commercial Park Master Site Development Agreement. 1H, the approval of the 2023 Hayden Days Car Show Contractual Services Agreement with Rory Presnell. 1I, approval of PZE 23-0045, the Bassett Zone Map Amendment Written Decision. 1J, the approval of the contract award to La Riviere, Inc. for the Crawfoot Park athletic improvements. 1K, the ratification of the bills paid on 6/8/23, and 1L, the approval of bills for payment. Council members, do we have any further discussion about this after being provided with this earlier?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember White.
Thank you. I was just going to ask a question about item I, the Bassett Zone Map Amendment. It says the council may approve or deny the written decision. So being it's in the consent calendar, we can only accept it?
That's a good question. Mr. Boyer, and I would also like to introduce to you folks tonight, Mr. Jason Wing, sitting next to Brett Boyer. Pond is unable to be here with us tonight, and Mr. Wing is taking his place as legal counsel. So if we have the approval of the Bassett Zone Map Amendment written decision, can we, do we appropriately?
So written decisions are a reflection of the facts and findings that occur at a decision made by city council. And staff can't direct council to approve the written decision as it was so written. Therefore, the memo to council identifies that this is a written decision of the record. It has been vetted by staff as well as legal counsel before it gets before city council. But when you have that memo, that's our standard memo that says direction for council, staff doesn't have that ability to tell the council that they should approve the written decision. And should you find a Scrivener's error that you'd need to have me fix or whatever, that gives you some latitude to do that prior to your approval. Should you approve it?
Am I correct that with approval of council that we could move this down to an action item and then discuss it separately? Is that what you're looking for, Ms. White?
Well, it goes along with 2B, the Bassett Zone Map Amendment there, and on the 2B, it says, should the council approve the written decision under the consent calendar, then this ordinance should be approved and put the change into effect. Yeah, 4B, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Okay.
So I was just wondering if they go together, or, I just noticed that today, that it was in the consent calendar as approve or deny.
Councilmember White, do you have a concern about it being on the consent calendar, or could you tell me which way you'd like to go with that?
I would vote to deny that, so, because I voted to deny it in the original action.
Okay, Councilmember DePriest.
I believe, and I guess I could be corrected if I'm wrong, that 1I is the actual written decision, 4B is the ordinance itself. Am I correct in that? So they're two separate, the written decisions leading to the ordinance, which is the action item.
And the written decision just reflects what you've already approved in a previous meeting.
And the vote of the council at the night of the meeting.
Right.
So her denial would be reflected in that as well.
So hearing that, Ms. White, would you be in favor of leaving it in the consent calendar and dealing with the item 4B, the zone map ordinance, separately?
I would prefer it separate, if that,
Okay,
Thank you.
in that case, we would need a motion from someone on council and seconded to move it to an action item. Would someone care to make that motion?
I move that we move item 1A from the consent calendar to unfinished business.
1I
I think you meant I.
1I, I'm sorry, 1I, excuse me,
to unfinished business.
yes.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Okay. Hearing none, motion dies for lack of a second.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as written, 1A through 1L.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
No?
Councilmember DePriest,
Yes.
and Council President Roder.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item that we have here tonight, folks, is our visitor and public comment. If you wish to have a public comment here this evening, I would appreciate it if you would go to the back of the room if you haven't already and fill out a card saying that you'd like to speak. Our comments are limited to 5 minutes, and at about 4 minutes, I will raise a piece of paper to let you know you've got about a minute left. We will not accept comments on planning and zoning issues or matters that may become a planning and zoning issue. We expect all commenters to be respectful of all other citizens and council members. And when you come up front, please state your name and whether or not you are a Hayden resident. Our first commenter is Ms. Susan Lehman.
Susan Lehman, I am a resident of Hayden. You may have addressed one of my questions here, but I want to give a little history, and it relates to some comments that were made back at the last meeting. But history in our country. I remember in back when Let's Go Brandon had its previous incarnation, FJB. I heard a woman on a podcast and she said, she was saying, that's not who we are. That's not who we are. And so I thought, I remembered a story that I heard in a book, which I brought here by William Bennett, America, the Last Best Hope. It's a great book. But back in George Washington's second term, he sent John Jay over to Britain to get a treaty going with Britain. And John Jay pretty much gave away the store. The terms of the treaty just really favored Britain, really favored Britain. It hurt our merchants over here. People were furious, absolutely furious. And so there was one merchant who had a sign in his window, and that sign said, "Damn John Jay. Damn anybody who won't damn John Jay. Damn anyone who won't stay up all night with a candle in their window, damning John Jay." And I thought, FJB, damn John Jay, same thing. Similarly, when Rush Limbaugh was still around, and back when Hillary Clinton was first running against Obama, I think it was, he would call her Royal Thighness. And I got very upset about that. And I was like, that's just, addressing somebody's physicality. Women can't help where they carry their weight. And I was all like, fuss, fuss, fuss. And then I read another story, which was about John Adams. And right in the first Congress, after the Constitution was written, John Adams had just come back from being the ambassador to England for 5 years. And so he came back and people were deciding, what are we going to call, how are we going to address the president? And so he came up with, we should say, His Highness, the President of the United States and Protector of their Liberties. And everybody was like, okay, John, just calm down a little bit. You've been in England for a little too long. Mr. President will be just fine. John Adams had also, with all the, being in London and at court, he had a lot of rich food and he had gained a paunch. And so his detractors started calling him His Rotundity. And so I thought, His Rotundity, Her Thighness, same thing. Abe Lincoln was called imbecilic and a baboon, or a gorilla. I think that some of us remember, with the 60s protests, people chanting, hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids have you killed today? And, most recently, we all remember, balloons of Trump baby flying through the air. So this is exactly who we are. It's exactly who we are, and rightfully so. We have the freedom to criticize our leaders. So when Amy McCamley came up here and called some comments of a member of, and I'll also defend you, Ed, so don't worry.
That's okay.
And called some comments of one of the city council members on social media high schoolish and got a little finger wag at her for that. I'm thinking, no, not the right answer. I have not seen anybody on recordings or up here in person, I've not seen anybody go outside the bounds of where I think they should be shushed. Anybody. And also in defense of Councilmember DePriest, yes, he was correct. I saw his comments later. I had to leave earlier that night. He does have freedom of speech. He does have the right to say what he wants on social media. He does. Don't be surprised if somebody brings it up. But I actually disagree with Amy's questioning of should there be a, code of conduct, not related to speech, not at all. So I am asking you, and it sounds like maybe you already have, to just rescind this whole thing you're trying out about, don't be disparaging, don't, all of that. I haven't seen anybody go beyond the bounds. People sometimes get passionate, but that is who we are. That is exactly who we are. And rightfully so. So I also do have questions about the budget. I guess from what you're saying, my time is running out.
Yes, ma'am. Time is up. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Once again, if you would like to speak with Ms. Sanchez or Mr. Boyer at any time about the budget, they would be happy to discuss it with you.
My concerns are that we're already starting workshops that are in the afternoon when hardly anybody can go.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Next comment of Mr. Wes McLean.
Hi, you guys. Last meeting I watched and, Ed kind of got picked on by that woman. And I just thought I'd share a story. That tabloid, during the toilet paper crisis, I used it because it was available. Nobody picks it up. And boy, I got a rash of little swastikas on my backside. And the doctor says a good thing I didn't read it. I'd have got gonorrhea of the brain. I don't know what the name of it is, but, so I just thought I'd share that story with Ed. It's a good story. But anyway, we bought another property in Hayden, so you're stuck with me. And other than that, all you guys have done a terrific job. I'm really proud of the things you guys have done over the years. And that's it. That's about as biscuit buttering as I could get, you know. But anyway, true story, Ed. Doctor said so.
Thank you for your comment. Next item on the agenda is a commission report. We have the Historic Preservation Commission, and we are fortunate tonight to have Chairperson Rhonda Budvarson.
Actually, I am chairman, but that's okay.
Nice to have you here tonight.
Yeah, thank you. So hello and greetings from our City of Hayden Historical Commission. My name is Rhonda Budvarson, and I am a resident of the City of Hayden Impact Zone. So I live just outside the boundaries. I'm the current chairperson of the Historical Commission with Barbara Bennett as the co-chair and Judy Eichelberger and Lee Zink as the commissioners. As you may know, the City of Hayden does not have an abundance of significant historical buildings. However, we do have an amazing group of settlers and families that have come from all over the world, bringing with them building styles, religions, trade skills, and work ethics. They have created an amazing place to live and raise a family. Our Historical Commission seeks to find their stories and record them along with photos to provide a valuable historical source for local citizens as well as visitors, young and old. Here are some topics that we regularly discuss and work on. The Stoddard property out on Prairie, which has a restaurant, a silo, a barn, and a park. We discussed historical information signage to provide information on past owners and the Lake City dairy business that thrived there. We are proactive in the preservation of the barn with a goal of usage for a museum, a venue rental, and possibly a farm market. This property is owned by the City of Hayden, and I believe the management is under the Park and Rec. Am I correct? Okay. The steel cabin, and this one has been kind of fun. The property is owned by Peter Foy and managed by Ben Udi. They have done a wonderful job. Instead of just tearing down this old cabin, they actually had it dismantled, sent off to be refurbished and reassembled. You can see this, it's on private property, but as you drive by on East Lancaster Road before turning onto East Hayden Lake Road, it's just up the way and you can see it from there. We're thrilled that we have local people that do fun things like this for us to help preserve our history. The Dolan House is another property that we're interested in. It is located on the corner of Ramsey Road and Miles Avenue. The exact address is 851 Miles Avenue. It is privately owned again by Ransom and Sarah Storm, and it is currently undergoing renovation. This home was built by Mr. and Mrs. Peter Dolan in 1914 and was surrounded by a fruit orchard. There are a few trees left. This house, after Mr. and Mrs. Dolan sold it and it was purchased by Mr. Clutter. I'm not sure of the current situation of the basement, but it was painted by Mr. Breckenridge, an artist. So at some point, maybe we can find out from the Storms if any of that original artwork still lasts in the basement. We also wish to put historical signage up at that spot to educate people as to why that was a significant area with the orchard. Family histories is always on our agenda. Barbara Bennett and Judy Eichelberger have interviewed family members and completed over 160 local area histories. 103 of those are edited and ready for submission as Book 1 to Grey Dog Press, a book printer in Spokane, Washington. 60 for Book 2 histories are currently written and being edited for Book 2. And that's what I have for our report.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little bit more about the steel cabin? Many folks that roll out west on Lancaster have seen that years ago.
That would be Judy Eichelberger's purview. She has the history down, but it was built by Mr. George Steele over 100 years ago. has been out there forever and ever. The property was recently, well, in the last few years, repurchased. And Judy has been in contact with the owners and the property manager, pushing to not have it torn down. So, yeah, we'll have to refer that to Judy. She's all over that one. But it's very nice that they just dismantled it, refurbished, had the wood redone, and rebuilt the cabin. So, I guess I should ask Judy if it's possible to schedule a cute little tour at some point so you can all have a look at the cabin. Yeah.
Do you know if that was refurbished locally? I mean, did they?
I don't know where they sent it out. I don't think so. I think it was dismantled, loaded up, and hauled off to have the logs re-trimmed so that it would last longer. But they've actually moved it off the original site over just a bit. But yeah, okay. So I will
It
talk
went
to
to
Judy.
Montana. They had to make a new base plate for the bottom because that had pretty much rotted away. And they're currently building the chimney on the outside of it unless they've finished it in the last week.
So they trucked it over there, they did the
They
work?
trucked it over there and then brought it back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So kudos to the family that owns that property and has seen fit to preserve it. Yeah.
I want to thank you for the work that you have done and your team. And I'm sure it's a labor of love, but I'd like to know when the book would be available or when you anticipate it'll be available. And when it is available, could people find out where they could buy it, or will it be available in City Hall, or do you have any thoughts on it?
How about yes? And Donna's gonna have to, because Donna sits in our meetings. Okay, so we have visited with Grey Dog Press over in Spokane, Washington. Judy is getting the first draft, ready to send over. He will edit the content to put it in book form. He will do a quick check of all the photos. It has taken longer than they expected because we had to review permissions for photos and source citation. So, yeah. That comes from the city. It has been set aside for quite a while and has been sitting, waiting for us to get it turned over to the printer. The city of Hayden will own the publisher rights because the money is coming from the city.
So it's not a donated money where I'd like to check.
Not as far as I'm aware, it was set aside for the historical commission for the book to be published. When it's published, hopefully it will be available not only here at City Hall, but in some of our local businesses. So we're still working on it. We haven't let it go yet.
Well, Rhonda, I'd like to echo Matt's comments, and on behalf of the entire city council, we very much appreciate the work that not only you, but all of the folks on the Historic Preservation Commission do. You guys are great.
I'll pass that along.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Item number 4, unfinished business. We have, for the first item tonight, is the report on the citizen engagement survey. And I'll bet our contractor, Ron, is waiting for us to join him up.
Please enter your access code. The access code you entered is invalid. You entered. To enable audio controls, please.
If you push that red button, he'll be able to hear you.
Push the red button. Mr. Ron Gailey, this is Scott Purcell. Can you hear us? Ron, are you there? Okay, that's a good idea. While we wait for Mr. Gailey to get on the phone there, let's move to item 4B, action item PZE-23-0045, the Bassett Zone Map Amendment Ordinance. Donna, is that something you can tell us about, please?
So, as Councilmember White said earlier, the written decision was under the consent calendar. And although the decision by council was to approve that zone map amendment request, the thing that makes it actually go into effect is the approval of the ordinance and thereby its publication, and then the zone for that particular piece of property will change. So this is the ordinance for that approval.
Oh. Do we have other comments or questions? Ron, can you hear me, Ron? Just wave your hand or something. Okay, Ron, work with us here. We moved to another item and we will come back to your item if you can hear me. All right, council members, let's ignore Mr. Gailey for a moment. No offense, Ron. Who knows when you will be able to hear me. All ordinances that in the city of Hayden must be read on 3 different dates unless the council opts to adopt an ordinance by suspending the rules. 4 steps are required to adopt by suspending the rules as follows. First, the motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading. That will be followed by a roll call vote. Second, the ordinance is read by title only. And third, the motion that the ordinance be adopted on having passed on its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary, incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage. Does council have any comments or questions regarding the ordinance? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading.
So, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Motion passes. We have now a roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
and Council President Roder.
Yes. Okay.
I think he went back out. He said he was waiting for you to let him in.
I will now read the ordinance by title only. Bassett Zone Map Amendment, PZE 23-0045, an ordinance of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for change in zoning classification for the lands described in Section 1 of this ordinance from residential suburban to single-family residential, providing for amendment of the official zoning map to reflect these changes, providing that all prior zones applicable to the lands described in Section 1 are hereby superseded, and providing severability and providing an effective date. I would now entertain a motion from council that the ordinance be adopted on having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary, incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from council? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember White,
No.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yep.
And Council President Roder.
Yes.
Motion passes. Well, perhaps we can circle back around to Mr. Gailey. Ron, are you with us? Ron, if you can hear us, we do not have your audio.
Okay, it's got this. Let's try it again. Is it now? Can you hear me?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Well, the magic of technology and the magic of checking other boxes. I'm ready when you are, and would love to know how you'd like me to proceed.
We are ready for you to explain the higher points of what you found for us.
Glad to do so. Can I have the ability to share my screen, please?
Certainly can. We'll take care of that here in a moment.
Can you see my screen okay?
Ron, where we have is overview : anything more to say?
Correct. I'm going to move to the top of the beginning because I was somewhere in the middle when I was just reviewing some things. But can you see the home page screen here?
We can. Can you raise your screen just a little bit on ours? You know what? I don't even want to go there. Let's just call this good.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, look, what you are looking at is the actual survey dashboard. I have provided Brett Boyer the link, and he can share this with you. This is a link that we can share with citizens if you wish. If you wish to have a slightly revised version that we share with citizens, I can work with you on that. But I'm going to share with you some of the major results. On the left-hand side, I want to show a few interesting points. I click here. We had 1,179 surveys completed. Actually, we had a few more than that, but some were not in Hayden, and some did not own property in Hayden or run a business in Hayden. And so those people were removed. But the ones that are here are legitimate and we're all part of Hayden, Idaho, or owned a business in Hayden. That gives you a really good statistical margin of error. So plus or minus 2.8% for anything that you see. So if you see a difference, it's not going to be much more than 3% different than what we show you at a 95% confidence level. So you have plenty of good data. I have here a slide that has a summary. I believe you've received this summary. I provided it to Brett and his team, and I think they provided that to you. I'm not going to spend any time on this summary. A couple of things to mention. We got pretty good distribution across the different areas here. So area 1 here, the green, we got 20% of the people who participated in the survey were from that area. And area 2, over here on the right-hand side, we got a lot. We got 27% of the people are there. Area 3, quite a few, 14%. Area 4, this smaller area here, 15%. Quite a few in area 5, 19%. And there were some that said they were outside of the area, but they owned or they operated a business inside of Hayden, and they're included. So we actually had quite a few who did own a business. It's 20%, but these are those that live outside of the area and own a business. So I think we have pretty good representation throughout that you can look at. Also, looking at the demographics, a few things to point out, and I'll pause here in just a second. But we had pretty good representation by age group, more in the 55 to 74 age range. You do have an older group of participants in general. 58% are over 55 or older. You have pretty good mix of females and males. It's usually true that we get more females than males responding. And usually it's closer to 60-40. So you're a little bit stronger in your balance. And years in the city. There are a lot of people who live in the city who are pretty new. So if we look at them, about 37% have been there 4 years or less. You have quite a few, 23%, who've been there 20 years or longer. But you have this good mix by years in the city. And you do have, as we mentioned, some who don't live in the city, but they have business. And then we have, most of them don't have children at home, perhaps, of course, because of the age group. And most are buying or owning their home. So that's pretty strong. And then, as I mentioned, 20% are business owners 80% or not. Any questions before I move on?
No.
Perfect. All right. So down in the corner here on every page, pretty much every page, you'll see the sample size. And one of the things you can do, and I'm going to show you on this next page, refer a friend. So you can use a filter over on the right-hand side to look and see if there's a difference by certain people. For example, you can say, well, do females give higher ratings overall than males? And it's slightly so. So what we do is we have the refer a friend ratings, and then I have grouped the 9s and 10s together, and I've grouped the 7s and 8s together into somewhat positive. And then we have the somewhat negative, 5s and 6s, and the strongly negatives, the 4s and lower. And I take the 2 positives and the 2 negatives and do a little bit of math, and that gives us our 59. So it's the 2 high ones and then the 2 negatives.
Ron,
and so your rating of 59 is pretty, I'll pause here.
Ron, this is Scott. Could you scroll down on your page a little bit? We can't see the bottom of your page.
Boy, I don't know how I can do that. I'm full screen.
Okay, well, you just keep going then. That's fine.
Okay, my apology. How far down can you see? Are you able to see over in the corner on the right-hand side, are you able to see the sample size?
No, the furthest thing we can see down is right/wrong direction. That's as far down as we can see.
Oh, so you are missing some of that. Do you know what I'm going to try to do? Yeah. I'm going to just try to go to a screen that's smaller, and I'll just go like this, and this will probably do it for you, right?
That's perfect.
And then you should be able to scroll.
Come a little.
Can you see anything left and right?
Go a little smaller from where you were.
I won't be able to read it. Be able to scroll back.
Compress your screen slightly, please.
Abby, can you make the ours?
I tried, but it wasn't going back down.
Good.
Can you see it all now?
Right there. Thank you.
Okay. So it'll be very small for you, I presume, but thank you. At least we can see it all.
You have good color.
So we took the 2 positive. Yeah, we took the 2 positives here, the 2 negatives, 38 plus 41 and 13 plus 8, subtracted the difference, and that's your 57. This is a useful score because if we do it in the future, you can compare growth or decline, right? You can't have a 1 number score here that you can, in your mind, you can get it. And then the useful thing is we can say, well, are females different from males? And they are giving slightly higher ratings. Males give a rating on average of 55, and females are 59. You can also, by the way, anything I'm showing you here, you can do on any other page. You can say, well, what about people who have been in the city for a long time, let's say 10 years or longer? What ratings do they give? And their ratings are lower, right, than people, let's say, who've been in the city 4 years or less, and they give a really high rating. 70 is their number. And I'm just showing you this as an example on this particular page, but on any page here, you can say, oh, I would like to look at the old timers or the new timers, or I would like to look at the business owners. Business owners give a little bit lower ratings, not much, than non-business owners. You could say, well, what about people who have, older people or younger people? So these things you can do, these filters you can use in any combination. And when you use a filter, just one other thing to mention here, you see that the sample size changes, right? We're down to 642, we were 1179. And then you can say even they have to have children in the home, and you can get that too. So just one of the benefits is you can check on and click on just about anything. All righty, so your refer a friend score, this 57 score is good. I've seen a little bit higher, and I've seen considerably lower. And I would put you somewhere in the middle of many of the cities that I've seen for, would you refer the city to a friend or family member as a good place to live? Now, we asked people why. Why would you refer the friend to a city? And we got a lot of comments. Now, one of the problems with comments is, what do you do with them all? We're going to have 1,179 comments, that's a lot of comments. And so we grouped them into themes. So all of the comments, there's a 1,179 here. I mean, there are a few that were gibberish, and so I removed them. But pretty close to 1,179. And I grouped them into themes. And if it's a positive theme in general, like, hey, I love my neighbors, I love my community, it's so friendly here, I put a smiley face over here. And that's the most common thing people said. I just love the community. On the other hand, the negatives have a down arrow by them. And you can quickly see the types of things that are a little bit negative. And so growth and congestion and losing the small town feel is the most common negative response. On the other hand, they love the small town feel and they feel it is safe and secure. Although there are people who are saying, hey, the traffic's getting a little bit rough around here. So that's what you can see. And in general, you're able to look at anything here in more detail on the next page. So I'm going to just say, for example, schools, they're mentioned positively, and the cost of housing tends to be reasonable and so forth. On the next page, we see the actual comments. Here they are, the comments. And there's too many to read, but let's say we go for a positive thing of the small town and rural. They love that feeling. And these people are talking about, it's a small town and so forth. And all of these comments had something to do with a small town feel. And you can look at it and say, well, this is a 40 to 54-year-old male. This one doesn't live in Hayden, so therefore he must be a business owner. And that's interesting that he doesn't live in Hayden City, but Area 4 is marked. I don't think I understand that. But that is confusing to me. But here's another one, 40 to 54 female, 10 to 19 years in the city, and she lives in Area 3. I wonder why. But so any comment you'd like to look at. So if you'd like to look at any negative comments about the police, you can go here. There's not a large police presence, this person says. And so you can look at the police, or you could look at nearly anything else that might be of interest to you, where they talked about growth and congestion. And you can read their comments. There's going to be a lot of comments, and therefore you can scroll down and just look at the comments, which I've done a fair amount of that. Any thoughts or questions?
I have one question, Ron. This is Scott. Will all of our citizens be also able to access this same information?
They can, if you want me to make it available to them. Good. So I have had cities where everything that I'm showing you now was made available. Most have been that way, but I've had some cities who said, let's withhold the comments, but we want to see the summary of the comments, right? Some cities have done that. In all cases, we want to go through the comments and make sure nothing sensitive is in there that shouldn't be there. For example, we've already tried to remove any vulgarity, which I don't think I saw any. And also, if somebody leaves their personal information, like a phone number or a street address, their home address or something, we want to remove anything like that. But I didn't see any of that. And so, but that's one thing we wouldn't want to put out there. But anyway, it's your choice, is what I'm saying. We can do it how you would like.
Thank you.
The direction of the city. This is an important slide here. In your opinion, has the city improved, stayed the same, or declined? And most people say that it's gotten worse. It hasn't improved. although some say it's improved. And are you going the right direction or the wrong direction? That's kind of mixed, kind of 50-50. And so, there's I guess in their minds, the jury is out a little bit on that. Now, what I did was I looked at it by zone. So different areas of the city, and most of the areas are pretty consistent in their feelings about, are we going the right direction or the wrong direction? Although Area 5, the one down here in the bottom corner, that area is a little more positive. And also, if they don't live in the city, but they have a business in the city, they're pretty positive and feel you're going the right direction. So not a lot of difference. I also did it by how long they've lived in the city. Are we going the right direction or the wrong direction? And the people who are new think it's great, like you're going the right direction. And the people actually who've even been there 1 to 4 years are pretty positive. But once you've been there 5 to 9 years, those people are a little bit more concerned. And I know in my own city, the people who moved here don't want anybody else to move here usually. And so we find this stop now that I'm here kind of a feeling. And also the old timers have often lost quite a bit that they loved, right? Things are not the same as it used to be 20 years ago. But that's very true in your city. Is that clear enough?
Yes.
Easy to see?
Yes, thank you.
Quality of life. We asked about the quality of life. Look, your quality of life ratings are really quite good. Your neighborhood is a place to live. I mean, it's excellent or good. And some say fair, but, very few have a poor rating. Hayden as a place to raise children, also strong. The overall quality of life in Hayden, fewer excellence, but a lot of very good, a lot of goods. Sense of community is good. Even Hayden as a place to work is good, and that might be that's your most negative, but not by, just slightly so. And so I would say the quality of life ratings are extremely positive. That's just a wonderful rating. On the other hand, we asked them in the context of growth only, which statement reflects your feelings, and we are growing at a good and healthy rate. Some people believe that. We're growing too fast. A lot of people believe that. And we're growing too slow. Very few people would have said that, but some did. And so in general, there's pretty strong feelings that maybe the growth has been a little bit too fast. I know that that's the way my city would have been rated. We've done 2 surveys, and there's a feeling of, hey, let's shut the door, and that's a strong feeling. And I think it exists in your city, where there's concern about we're growing too fast. We then asked about a variety of city features. Let me show you what it is. Here's how we did it. We said, here are a few city attributes. Which 3 should the city devote more time and resources to enhance? So they looked at the 10 items in this list, and everyone picked 3 as things they thought the city should devote more time and resources to enhance. And managing the growth and density of the city, and the overall quality of the road transportation system, and also the overall feeling of safety in Hayden, were the 3 highest rated as being the city should devote more time and resources on these things. Even the parks came up pretty high. There's some things down here, shopping opportunities. 10% of the people did say that was one of their 3, including employment opportunities, but the majority were up here. And if it was among their top 3, we asked them to give a rating. And so you'll see different ratings. And managing the growth and density of the city is an area where they feel that it's important and a better job could be done. And the transportation system is also important, and they feel you're doing pretty good, but also not so good, right? There's this mix of feelings here. And then the overall feeling of safety is very important. And by the way, you're doing very good on that one. So you're able to see importance and performance. Some people feel the downtown and commerce area needs more vibrancy. We got 20% who said that. So it's in the top 6, and they're rating you a little bit lower if they do care about that, right? So I think overall, then you can see then at a glance what's important, and then are there areas where we're struggling a little bit? Any thoughts or questions?
Not at this point.
Okay, good. The next, we gave them another list of 10 items. Here are a few more. Which 3 should the city devote time and resources to enhance? So they picked their top 3. And well-planned industrial growth at the bottom, 10% said that was important, but the majority clicked traffic flow on major streets and well-planned residential growth, and also maintaining the streets. I think it is interesting to look at the streets, and your streets are pretty well maintained. Perhaps there's some room to improve, and you would know about that, but the maintenance of the streets looks good. But on the other hand, there's some feelings about traffic flow on the major streets, and maybe just taking another thought about how the residential growth can be planned a little bit better. There is also some that are more negative, and ease of walking in the city is important, moderately so, and the ratings are a little bit lower, and the ease of bicycle travel is pretty low, but a very strong rating. So these are some, maybe after you've given some thought about some things, you come back and look at these. Now, so what happened then, just to explain, from the first list, they picked their top 3. From the next list, they picked their top 3. And then I put them all together, and we said, here are the 6 issues that you rated as most important. And we said, and then we said, which 3 are most important? So we got the top 3 out of 20 attributes. And that's what's shown on this page, the top 3 of everyone, right, put together. That allows things on the different lists to be compared side by side, as a matter of fact, about their importance. So the overall feeling of safety in Hayden is in the top 4, and you're doing great. Managing the growth and density of city is the #1 concern from the list that we showed them, as well as traffic flow and well-planned residential growth. So there you go. The quality of new development and maintenance of streets is pretty good. Ease of walking in the city actually is in the top 10. It's rated a little bit lower. Ease of bicycle traffic is not in the top. It's in the top 15, a little bit lower. So you're able to see them here, all in one view, to understand what people are concerned about and where they feel you should focus. The comprehensive plan. This is a little bit confusing, I'll be honest. We asked people if they were aware of the comprehensive plan. Yes, no. 37% said they were aware. 63% said, I'm not aware. Then we asked them, should we update the plan, or is it okay, or do you not have an opinion about it? And so this is of all residents, the 63% who said they weren't aware are over here. And then the plan needs to be updated soon. 21% of the people thought that would be a practical thing to do. And the plan is good, 8% said that, and then unsure, 7% said that. So we definitely have among people a feeling that maybe there is a need to update the plan soon. I don't know how many of them have actually read it. In truth, probably not very many. There are probably some who have, but I was surprised that as many people as we have here, had an opinion about your comprehensive plan.
Ron,
But so it is. Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Ed DePriest has a question for you.
Yeah, Ron, that 37%, is that what it is? Who said that they're aware of?
Right.
And then is that 21% of those 37? Said it needs.
No, this is 21% of the entire population. I brought in all. This adds up to 100%.
So your confusion is, I guess I kind of, if only 37% said they were aware of it, yet 21% of the 1179 said it needs to be updated. Is that what you're saying?
That's what this would say.
So that's kind
because, that's what this would say. Because if I did up to 37, this adds up to 37 right here. These three add up to 37.
What does that tell you when you see something like that in a survey?
It's rare that I have seen anything that was truly perplexing like this. And as we go through the rest of the survey, nearly everything is intuitive. This one, I'm just not so sure what to think. I don't have a strong opinion about it. I'm just a little bit perplexed as to why so many would say that it needs to be updated soon, other than they feel that updating the plan might help address the growth that's happening, right? I assume it's an extension of that belief, but I don't know.
Ron, do you think it?
I don't know. And I will tell you this. At the very end, let me give you one other thing. Anything more to say? The last question was, do you have anything more to say? And I asked people if they had comprehensive plan. You know, I looked for the comprehensive plan, and 3% of the people who responded to this anything more to say, so this is 3% of 350, which is what? 350 times 0.03, right? That's 10 people mention the comprehensive plan in the end, right? So if they do feel anything about it, very few people commented about it later on. So that's another thing where you look at this and you go, you'd think a lot of people would comment on it if they believed so, right? Not just 10 people.
I just thought it might be in the use of the word aware, as opposed to read or something. Aware is maybe a little bit more nebulous, and that maybe they've heard of the word comprehensive plan or something like that. I don't know, but it just, the numbers didn't completely make sense.
Yeah, we probably should have done it where, yes, I'm aware, but I don't know, we should have done it differently. And I didn't think we had done anything that would give us confusing results. But to me, Brett and I, we've looked at this, and I've looked to make sure it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake, but it doesn't make a great deal of sense. And in the comments, like I'm going to go to the comments here, for example, we can look at the comprehensive plan comments, right? And they don't really say much. We have a very verbal person here at the beginning. I'm going to kind of skip by that one. But as you look at them, you know, it's kind of about growth, or how can I obtain a copy, you know, or if we have a plan, we better follow it. But we have only like a couple of people who said it needs updates. You know, most don't even do that, right? I mean, none of them are saying you better do something about that plan, except for just a couple of people.
Is it possible that that type of response in the numbers that stem from conversation they've overheard and things like that?
I doubt it. Maybe. I mean, I don't think the comprehensive plan is a big discussion issue. I mean, I guess in an outside sense, I guess it's possible, but I just can't imagine it. And I think it just reflects the dissatisfaction with the growth of the city that some people are feeling, and they say we should update the plan, right? I think that's where it's at. they're probably viewing this as a way to address that concern, but I can't say anything more than that.
Thank you.
I wish I would have had I have not read, and the plan needs to be updated soon, and I have read, and the plan needs to be updated soon, right? I wish I had that, because then we could say, well, look, 95% of these haven't even read the plan. So you could probably do something like that, but we don't know, sadly.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. Like, this is a very strange thing. And I think it's the one strange thing in the study. But it is strange, I acknowledge. Thoughts on housing. So we asked, when you think of growth in housing, how much do you agree with the following statements? So here are the statements. The city should be more concerned with the loss of open space than with the development of housing. So there's a lot of people who say, boy, I sure hate to lose the open space around here. And then the city should only allow single-family housing on larger lots. Actually, quite a few people have that belief. On the other hand, we have a pretty good mix of people who say the city should support a variety of housing types. So here, if you take the strongly agrees and the somewhat agrees, and maybe even the neutral, I'm not sure, but you're like, 62% would be there. On the other hand, the benefit this community will benefit if we allow more townhomes, duplexes, and small homes. A lot of people are saying, I don't know that I agree with that point. And a lot of, I know we added the manufactured home parks as a potential smart direction. And I think if so, we would have to build the case for it, because a lot of people inherently are not feeling that's the right way to go. So the housing is a tough one on people here, and they're definitely deferring mentally to the single family housing on local lots, although there is in the middle a reasonable amount of support for a mix, right? Any thoughts before we move on from this one?
No, go ahead.
All right. Focus intersections. We showed them a map. We had intersections noted all throughout, and we asked them to select the two that they thought were most important for the city to focus on. And what comes out, I've marked them with this yellow marker here, but you got Hayden and Ramsey, Honeysuckle and Ramsey, and Honeysuckle and Government Way as being by far and away the three where they thought that the work, the improvements were needed. And that might help you as you try to sort through the order that things are done.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We asked about the community center. How desirable would it be for Hayden to develop a community center? And, the desirability was pretty high. There are some who are not very desirable. That'd be about 20%. Support, even using city revenues, is relatively high. We have some, 13%, who are opposed to using city revenues for a community center. And even support for a tax levy wasn't horrible. I see you got 29% who said no. So there you go with that. But a lot say, well, it all depends on the amount, and it does depend on the features. And some would support it right off. And some have no opinion. But you do have pretty good support in general for a community center. I know there was a desire to insert a senior center as part of it, right? And I understand that. And we didn't do that. We left it as a feature to find out how it did against the rest of the things. And a senior center came off super high. Like, that's a really good and important thing for your community center to provide. And a multi-use indoor facility is the number one. But it does pretty well, including sports courts of various sizes of basketball or volleyball or pickleball, and a kitchen and dining area. So there were a lot of things that they did like, and they thought would be really practical. Any thoughts on this page?
No, go ahead.
All right. we've covered a lot of ground at this point, and we asked people of the ideas we've discussed today, which one should Hayden City leaders consider the highest of the priorities? And the answers just fit with everything that we had seen, which is to manage the population growth and traffic improvements. And then public safety was mentioned by some as the highest priority. Revising the comprehensive plan drops down considerably. And then the community center is also there, maybe not the highest priority compared to these other things. I do know some people said, I wish I could have checked 2 or 3 of these, and I appreciate that. But this allows you to see really if you're going to prioritize what matters and how you should prioritize. And so I think we did it the right way. But there you go, managing the population growth. I know it's a really tough thing in my city. We'd love to manage the population growth, and there's a few things we have done to do that. And I know it's a very difficult thing, but that's what I'd love to see in the area. Okay, ideas worth developing. Next page. Consider the ideas. Which ones do you feel would be worth using city revenues to develop and or maintain for Hayden? So we have a list of improvements. The highest thing was to make improvements to Honeysuckle Beach. A lot of people did think that was an idea worth developing. Also, creating a gathering space out of the 4-acre city-owned area behind City Hall. That came off pretty well, very strong. And also the community center was definitely an idea worth developing. Maybe not the highest priority as we saw on the prior page, but a very good idea that a lot of people like. And then purchasing additional land for additional parks came off relatively high, and things after that dropped down considerably. But you have pretty good responses for some of those things. City beautification and developing the barn at Stoddard Park and developing a sports complex were a little bit lower. And the historic building preservation was the lowest, although some people thought that was an important thing to do and wanted that. Very few people said none of these, so in general, there's support for these ideas to be considered.
Question?
Any thoughts on this, Dave?
Yes, we've got one question from Mr. Roeder.
Yes, make improvements to Honeysuckle Beach. Were the respondents allowed to make comments on what they thought those improvements should be?
Well, yes, and it's actually in the anything more to say here, right? On anything more to say. And I did do a look for Honeysuckle Beach whenever anybody made a comment. 4% did, right? So we can go to the next page here. We can go to Honeysuckle Beach and see what they have to say. Now, they're not all the improvements, but here they are. And we have a variety. I would love to go to Honeysuckle Beach. Too little parking, needs a lifeguard, is a 55 to 74-year-old female. Please, the boat launch needs to be moved, a huge priority. By the way, I saw several people say the boat launch needs to be moved, and I saw several people said, don't move the boat launch. So I know it can go both directions. Here's somebody going one way. Honeysuckle Beach and boat launch used to be a family favorite. Anyway, they comment. So you do have a fair number of comments about Honeysuckle Beach that you can review. Or the ideas worth developing.
Thanks, Ron. Keep on going there.
Okay, and then so we do have anything more to say. And a lot of people didn't have anything more to say. So 70% didn't make a comment on anything more to say, but 30% did. And they made a comment. So we had 350 people who made a comment. And a lot of people mentioned the 2 things that were rated highest of, hey, what can we do to slow down the growth? Or it's important to look at traffic. So we have those comments. And then there were people who asked about roads to be improved or fixed, widen this or fix that, and so forth. So we had comments on that. Actually, there were a lot of people who said, thank you. You guys are doing a great job. And there was a fair amount of gratitude for city officials. There were a fair number of comments on taxes, A lot of them, I'll say, were relatively positive, like, thank you for keeping the taxes under control and please continue to do so. You know, or please watch that taxes stay under control. But we had that. There are some who said, hey, we just need to keep an eye on safety and crime as we grow. And there were some concerns about that. But yeah, these were the major ones. There are some who said, hey, and I'll just be honest with you, you'll read them, and they'll say, hey, the city council's terrible and the mayor stinks. So you'll get some of those, you know. But you also got some positive ones in there that talk about the city officials and some of the good things that happened. You have quite a few who comment on multifamily housing. Most of these are negative, like stop it, or be careful where you put it, but you'll have those here. So anyway, you'll just see the comments, but you get down to not very many comments on some of these. You see only 4% of 350. So some of them just get down to 10 to 15 people in some of these areas talking about them. But overall, I think it was pretty good. And then some of them, I didn't know what to think about them, and I put them into other citizen suggestions. And so they just, you know, they'd make a valid comment, but it was like a one-off or something unique that I wasn't sure what to do. Maybe, I don't know if it was, I think I did a search. Oh, we had the airport here. Yeah, I had the airport ones in here, and I went, oh, there's a lot about the airport. So we have a fair number who commented on that. But other citizens' concerns tend to be one-off that you can look at and see any of those. And then as our source, they mostly came in from emails, but we got quite a few from the signs and posters and flyers on Facebook and your newsletter. And we got some on paper that came in. And then some came in from the newspaper link, and some came from the business email that was sent out, and a handful came in from the grocery store bags, but they came in from various sources. And it was a teeny bit longer than I would have hoped. 14 minutes long. I'd love to be closer to 11, so we probably had a few more things in here than was ideal. But it was a good survey, and it came in at about the right length, maybe a little longer than ideal. And I'll pause right here. We've, you know, very quickly covered a lot of content, and I would just love to, you know, help you think through or discuss anything. I've seen a lot of other cities, and you're doing quite well compared to some, and it's definitely a growth-minded concern group of citizens, and I presume this doesn't make that easy for you when you have to think about it, but it's information, and you do know what they feel, so I think it's very valuable that you have it.
Ron, are you going to be available after this survey to answer questions from council or citizens, that type of thing?
However you'd like my help, I'll be glad to do it.
If you would be available, that would be great. I would ask council that for any questions that we have of Ron, that we do it after the meeting or tomorrow to get a little better idea of what's going on, unless someone has something really pressing that they want to talk about right now.
Just one question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Roeder.
When will this be available, or is it already available to members of the council so we can see all the results?
So it can be available to you this very minute, correct? So I've given Brett the link for this survey, and he can share that with you, or if you'd like me to share it with you, I'm glad to do it. So there's a link, and it'll remain active. It'll remain active. It won't be shut down anytime soon unless technology changes and we leave the internet and jump to something else or whatever, right? But it'll be available for many, many years. Number two, if you want to send something slightly different to citizens or make it available to citizens, maybe without comments or however you want to do it, I can make a different version with a different link that you make publicly available. Or we can just make this publicly available. Many cities do. Like they just say, hey, transparency, let's get it out there. And so that's just something you can do. And it'll be intuitive. I've never had a problem with the many that we have out there with various cities.
Well, Councilmember
Sometimes
White.
what cities like to do. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Ron. Councilmember White.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to say I look forward to reading all the comments from people. I would like those to be available for people to read as well. I was just wondering, some people commented that they felt like they were forced to answer questions before they could move from one to another. And sometimes they had to answer a question they weren't too sold on. So how would you address that?
They were forced, well, number one, we did require most questions to be answered.
Yes.
So they couldn't like leave an answer blank and go forward in the survey, or else you get all kinds of empty responses that make it difficult to deal with. So I think that's true. I think they needed to answer a question on the page they were on before they could move on to the next one. In all cases, pretty much except for the demographics. And in all cases, except for that final question that said, do you have anything more to share? And we didn't require them to share anything more. But all of the rest did ask them to leave a response. That's true.
Are we gonna have council?
That's true.
So we didn't have a response that said no response, or, just kind of a way for people to.
We could look at the questions where we would like to have a no response answer and add that in the future. But you're right. We didn't create very many no response responses in there. And we normally ask people to pick a side, and to select something.
Councilmember Satterfield.
Just a suggestion, if we get this, I mean, I'm looking at, there's a lot of information here. I'm not really going to be prepared to have questions for a week or two. Could we
That might be true, yeah.
Could we come back at a later date, everybody set a timeline, everybody formulate their questions and then get back with him? Would that be a way to go about it? Because like I said, I don't have that many questions now, but let me read the thing and then I might have a ton of them.
I think that's fair.
Brett, do you have any thoughts on that?
He's willing to take questions and give you an opportunity to go through it. There is a lot of information, so I'm just trying to think through, Ron, what's the best way, instead of having individuals calling you, do you want like an email with those questions? And then if we need to have a sit, I just don't know how many questions there will be after this. But it sounds like he's willing to answer whatever questions we have.
I mean, it would kind of be best not to have it be the Wild West, you know what I mean? So that we can kind of get together and go through some of the questions. Maybe that would be better for a later date.
If there's a lot of questions and we need to bring him back on, he might be willing to do that, or we could do questions by email and just get them answered.
Okay.
But let me just add one thing, and that is when you get citizen feedback, in some respects, you just have to keep in mind we're just going to a broad base of the citizens and getting their feedback, and you need to not take offense at things and just kind of read it and keep it in mind and allow it to roll. And because normally there are a handful of people who will get under your skin, but there's a lot of responses there. That's why we love to have so many, right? And you need to keep perspective and not dig down into an individual and then ask me why an individual answered the way they answered or whatever, right? So much, but it is really helpful, I think, to keep the perspective of this is a broad look at the many people across the city, and it's quite representative, I'm sure.
Well, Ron, looking at the rest of the council members here, I believe that we will be getting back with you very shortly about this.
I'd love to.
I think we're very impressed with the information you came up with there, and pretty straightforward. And Brett, do you have anything else with Ron?
No, I think just direction from the council. Would you like us to just put the link on the website? And when we have reports like this, we always want to bring it to the council first before just putting it out to the public. And so then we ask you, what would you like to do with it? And how would you like to do it? So just some direction. It doesn't need maybe a motion, just to direct
Motion
what you
would be
want.
easiest and fastest. Okay. Would
It's not an action item.
oh, it's not an action.
So
We will not be doing
Comment?
Just briefly, council members, how do you feel about putting it on the
Okay,
Well-
I think it's a great idea. I mean, as long as, I don't think it can be edited in any way by outside.
I asked him that. I think
Yeah.
that's okay. We're okay
So,
from that.
as long as it's just information on what it is, and I think it should be put out there. I guess when we let him go, I'd also like to make some just brief comments about it, if we can do that. Okay.
Mr. Roder, how do you feel about?
Yeah, I'd like to see it on the website, the full results, so that the full disclosure, the public could see everything.
Okay. Mr. Satterfield?
You know, the worst thing we could do is delay what the survey said. You know, I mean, how many times have we taken a survey and then nobody's ever gotten back to us or let us know what it said? I think we should move forward, even possibly put it on the website before we have a period of questions from the council. You know, because it's going to be educational to us why, but, you know, I think citizens need to know.
Thank you. Councilmember White?
I agree that for full information, that all the comments need to be posted as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Sounds like we'll do the whole link then.
I'll mention that.
Excellent. Ron, thank you again. We appreciate the time and effort you've put into this and the time you spent talking to us tonight.
My pleasure. It's been it's been a good experience to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Mr. DePriest?
Yeah, now that we have the survey, and hopefully it'll be available tomorrow-ish or as soon as.
Yeah, tomorrow. We'll
Yeah,
stick
the link is up so that everybody can see it. But I know that when we initiated this, I know that my purpose behind it was to gather a lot of the information that it looks like we got and to lead us into taking action on the input that we get. And I think the issues that we saw are no surprise. And I'd like to suggest that we, in the near future, have an initial workshop where council and mayor just bring ideas to the table regarding what I think are just a few more minor tweaks to the future land use map and code text and stuff like that, so that we can move on. We've been at this for 2 years, let alone they just finished the comp plan, and then it's been almost 2 years of continual this and that. I think with this information, if each council member brought their ideas, we hashed it out, hopefully in a very short period of time, get it all done so that we can move on to other important issues in the city.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, then we will move on to item 4C on unfinished business. This is the contract award to ACI Northwest for the North Ramsey Gravity Sewer Project. Alan, can you provide us some information?
I can. First, we've talked about this project is the sewer extension just north of the airport to Lancaster. I can certainly put that a picture up on the screen if that would be helpful, if you think, or I can just speak to what's in front of you.
Council members, do you all know where it is? Go ahead, just speak.
Okay. So we went out, the project, of course, was not slated to be done as quickly as it was. It was prompted by the fact that the Ramsey Road North, or the Ramsey Road Extension Project, second phase got funded about 4 years earlier than we anticipated. And so we have a sewer line that needs to go underneath that future road that's happening next summer. And so the idea was to get that road, that sewer in while it's relatively inexpensive, which it turned out we got fantastic bids. The engineer's estimate, we got nine responsive bids. We actually got more bids than that, but the engineer's estimate was $512,000 for the work. The bids ranged from $286,000 to $586,000, so it kind of blanketed it, but on the low end. And then the low bidder was $285,791, and that was ACI Incorporated. And so we are 300,000, 200, I don't know, roughly 300,000, I guess, below the engineer's estimate. So that's a fantastic bid. We're glad to see that. It's a pretty open project, so I was hoping we would see good bids, and we did. And with 9 bidders, I will share with the council, that's a lot. Really a lot. So we had a lot of interest in the project. So we're here to, this project is also, did we get approval to fund this, Brett, from her?
So, her requested, Monday, so yesterday, we were there, the mayor was there, Rob was there, and presented this project. They previously had approved to pay for the design work, and they said, if you want to come back, ask for the construction. So we did, it was presented. They requested to have a contract brought back to them. So it was not a final formal, yes, we will, but it was, to me, the indications were, yes, they will fund it, bring a contract back from the city to do so. So that, Matt was there as well. I think that's.
It was positive.
It was there.
So
Yeah.
the project really needs to move forward because we're going to build the road next year and we really want, you need to get this in, we need to get this in before the road's built. But the fact is, it sounds very positive. We will get help with funding because we have a number of projects we need to get done, and having some assistance from her is a wonderful thing. So what I'm looking for the council is approval to award the contract to the lowest responsive bidder, which is ACI Northwest Incorporated.
A local company.
They are a local company.
Do we have any comments or discussion from council?
Question.
Question
Who
from Mr. Secretary.
oversees this when the construction's going on? Is it the engineer? Is it you, Alan?
It will be the engineer and myself.
Okay, thank you.
I will oversee it with the assistance of a team from a consulting firm where they already have them under contract. As part of their original contract, we included both the design and the construction administration. If we didn't move forward, of course, we wouldn't, the construction end of it would not be paid for, but it's already under contract with the city.
Okay, I think that's important. My experience is when you have a bid this much lower than what the engineer, you start getting skeptical, are they gonna change order us to death?
Yeah.
But if, you've got the engineer, so they're on our side.
Well, you're very, very true. I mean, this is a low bid. They may have saw some things that others didn't see that they think that wasn't covered. We'll find that out. But they are a reputable firm. I've worked with them numerous times. So, I think it's a good project.
Thank you. Mr. DePriest.
And this, I'm probably, maybe to both of you, but Brett, did I understand it correctly that if HURA agrees to fund this, they also funded the design and all that?
They have,
So the
yeah.
total cost for this will be fully funded by HURA basically, and not, and no
The
city?
potential is yes.
Wow. Yeah.
It's,
And I guess the second part of it is, and I know this is purely hypothetical or whatever type of thing, and it was kind of just touched on, a difference of almost 300,000 between the high and low bid. And that is a concern too, that we're gonna get, change ordered and stuff like that. Is there any way that we can put a limit or protection against, well, next thing you know, it's cost 450,000 type of thing, and her says, no, we only said we're gonna do that. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you'll see that because the next two bids were 333,000, 373,000. That information's in your packet.
Right.
So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 of them that were under 400,000.
So it's probably likely we'll get some change orders and stuff like that. They'll find things that we didn't see, blah, 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 but it's quite likely that it'll probably end up in the neighborhood of 300-ish and plus whatever.
I would say that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
There is no project that
Right.
probably doesn't have some surprises. I mean, we don't know everything that's going to happen once you start digging in the ground or, weather. There's a numerous things that can affect that the contractor has no control of.
Right.
Do we have other questions from council members?
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Thank you. Okay, I was wondering, do we have all of the right-of-ways necessary for this?
Yes.
Okay. And where would the money come from if HERA said no?
It will come from our cap fees, Brad?
Capitalization fee, we have a 2.7 in there. We plan to use some of those for the gravity sewer as well and the other projects, but there's enough in there to cover utilizing, for 285,000.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree that it would be nice if we had some kind of assurance that that if there's a change order or something, we could not have it. Well, if it's going to come back and be more expensive, how are we going to cover that? Would that also come out of the capitalization fees, or do we have a guarantee that it won't increase?
In the public bidding process, which you're obligated to follow, there are no guarantees that everything that you put down is exactly right and that there will be nothing found by the contractor that is out of his control. Now, if it's something that's in his control and it's something that was clearly addressed in the contract documents or the plans, he's not entitled to that. So he's only entitled to change orders that meet the criteria of the contract that he's being, and that contract is a statewide standard contract that we're using. So it's been vetted. We're using the 2020 version. I think the first version was like maybe 2000. And it's basically the same information, just adjusted based on state law as it changes, adjusted on local conditions and such not. So there is no real way of guaranteeing a number, okay? It isn't, the process doesn't allow for that. But the process does allow for fair treatment of both parties to the contract, which is the city and the contractor.
Thank you. Huh?
Okay.
Other questions?
Just
Mr.
one
Satterfield?
more. I think the key word here is responsive, because there's a certain criteria you have to meet to be responsive, and that takes away a lot of the, okay, I'm just gonna bid low so I can change order you to death. So I think responsive is a key word here.
Members of council, I'd like to move this along here. Do we have any other further discussion? Mr. DePriest?
No, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion if we're finished.
Motion is in order.
Okay, I'd like to, motion to approve the contract award to ACI Northwest for the North Ramsey Gravity Sewer Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Abby?
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to number 5, new business. Action item, a 2023 Idaho Children Pedestrian Safety Grant Award for the Hayden Meadows Elementary Pedestrian Route Project. And before I get into that, council members, I would like to point out the extraordinary effort and the extraordinary pressure that Alan Soderling has been under to make this work. The next time you're near him, please give him a thank you. He has done an amazing job on this. Moving along then, Hayden Meadows Elementary Pedestrian Route Project. Who is going to tell us about that?
Is that you, Abby?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you guys take it.
Well, maybe I'll start off as far as the grant part, and then Alan can fill in the details. So this is a grant that we applied for, I don't know, it was a year and a half ago, or it's been some time ago. It's for sidewalk in front of Hayden Meadows Elementary School along there that goes over to Maple. We had applied for it, and we did not get the grant, and we were, ranked. Anyways, recently they came back and said, we have additional funding, and they went into the lower in the list and said, we can fund these additional projects, but you gotta hustle and move forward with this. And so Abby, who wrote put together a grant before, received that and came to us, and this was, I don't know, a week and a half ago, and said, do we want to go for this grant? And so we put it together, I think, talked with the engineers that helped with that before a little bit, did a little bit of groundwork, and we were coming here to say, if we want to do this, we've got to move quickly on it. And I covered your portion out, Abby, really, Alan.
Yeah, so just so you're aware of what we applied for in the grant was a sidewalk along the south side of Hayden Avenue between Maple and the elementary school, Hayden Meadows. And so this would be, basically, it's where we have a ton of school children that walk on the edge of the road. It is a short time frame. The cost is slightly older than you'd probably like to moving at this point. But I did talk to the firm that was Welch Comer who was helping us at that time. And they're thinking it's not too bad. They're working right now with the thoughts that we would maybe move forward on putting together a scope to be able to get the design done. So we need to get the design done and get this built ASAP. So if it's something the council wants to move forward with, we would be probably bringing a engineer's proposal to do the design to the next council meeting and then moving promptly.
Alan, do you anticipate you and your staff have the time to do this? Your pressures have not let up.
Mayor, I'm going to say that there's, how much is there? Quite a bit of money here that's being offered to the city. We don't get those opportunities very often. We would lean heavily on the consulting firm to run this. It still is going to take, bi-weekly meetings on staffs, but staff is prepared to try and take this on. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Mr. DePriest.
Is there any need to acquire right of way for the sidewalk? And how does that fit into the picture?
It's an interesting one that we're going to have to evaluate quickly. The sidewalk is really designed to be about 6 inches inside the right of way. So
Property line, the front property lines?
from the edge of the sidewalk to the property lines is like 6 inches. We have one place, in order to do that, we would have to build a short wall. It's very possible we would be speaking with the property owners and seeing if they would be willing to just grant us a temporary construction easement for 5 feet or something that we would restore to be able to construct.
Yeah.
We don't need the property to put the improvements on, but
Just to construct it.
But when you're building a sidewalk that's at a certain grade and the ground around it's doing this, sometimes you have to do a minor amount of grading to get everything to fit together because you can't have the sidewalk just following the ground line. And so we would be approaching those property owners. And I would hope that it really would be such a minor impact that there would be a positive response. But if there's not, we would have to find a workaround.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. White?
If it's not too much trouble, could we see it on the map? Can we bring up the map of that part? I just want to get a visual
Can I get
of
the
it.
county map up?
Sorry. I just think it would be helpful to be able to see it.
I think I can.
Thank you.
Oh, Abby's got this up. So I may,
Minimize that.
thank you.
I know you guys are quick with these maps. You're good.
Well, mine comes up automatically. I don't know what it's doing. There it is. I don't have any here. We should get it.
Also, while you're doing that, may I ask another question?
Sure.
Okay, it says in the document, section 3, number 6, comply with all other applicable federal and state statutes and regulations. I was wondering, do we have a list of what those are, what we have to comply with?
I think this is state money. It's coming from LTAC. So I'm not sure that that paragraph actually applies. But it would apply to all state laws that are tied to the federal law, so.
So would that end when it's built, or is this
That would be.
A feature that-
That'd be construction.
just during construction? Okay.
Typically, that's construction. So typically, that is, one of the typical ones would be that we have to do our hiring from the city in accordance with like Title VI, which we have to do anyway. So it's not it comes from the federal government, but it's a requirement of the city and it's a requirement of the state.
Okay.
Okay, Hayden Avenue. Did we get there already? Yeah, look at that. So it is. I'm going to draw a quick line for you.
Okay.
See how I
Thank you.
do? Let's use a color like orange. Not,
It goes all the way to Finucane.
does it go all the way across the school?
It does, and all the way to Finucane.
Oh, it goes all the way to Finucane. So
Yeah.
just off the page.
Yep.
Right there.
Can I make
We have a substantial amount of students that come down Maple both directions and come down Hayden, and we also have a number of students that come down Finucane and, what is that, north of there, something Valley or, anyway, and come down Hayden Avenue. So this would provide a raised sidewalk pathway for those students going to Hayden Elementary School.
I like to make a comment. Probably about 6 years ago, I met with the resource officer at Hayden Meadows to look at safety issues as students were being dropped off and picked up. And this is an issue. It's been ongoing for quite a while. And it's going to be worsened by having the development of the 10 acres south of the school, which is almost complete. I think they're building houses on it now. There's even going to be more traffic. So my point is that this is badly needed. It's been needed for a while, and we need to get it done.
I drive this section all the time, and it is dangerous for those kids there. We must allow this. If you figure you can do it, that is so important for kids there. Other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. White.
Thank you. So the grant hinges on getting it done in a timely manner. If we're not able to get it done in time, then how would we absorb the additional costs if we lose the grant after we start?
We would be absorbing the design cost. That design could sit on a shelf and apply for the grant the following year.
Okay.
Other comments or questions from council?
I have one more.
Yes, ma'am.
One more
Go ahead.
question about the requirements. So usually grants come with conditions, like we've seen that at Honeysuckle Beach. And I was just wondering about this number 6, complying with all other applicable federal and state statutes and regulations. Will this end once this is built, or will we have conditions that go on for the life of the sidewalk? That's an unanswered question.
You will have the condition that your sidewalk is built to ADA standards, which is a condition you must meet today.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Other,
I've got a question. Ellen, who is the grant money coming from?
It's coming through LTAC. Is that right, Abby?
From the state.
It's the state? Is that tied to the educational funding at all, do you know?
I don't have it in front of me here. Is it a safety grant?
Yeah, it's infrastructure.
The reason I ask, I'm not against this, but I have to ask the question, why isn't the school participating in helping us with this? Because it's their school. I have to ask the question. I have my reasons for asking it, but have they ever been asked, or can somebody give me a reason, explanation why the school shouldn't be asked to participate?
I certainly can. I don't have a big history of how the school came about and the requirements and what the thought processes was, and if there was any promises or anything at the time, and I wouldn't be aware of any of those, Mayor Satisfield.
And I agree. It's, you know, I drive that street a lot. You know, it's, you know, if you want fewer kids, then leave it the way it is. That's being a little probably too blunt, but you know, it is a worthy project, but I just have to ask about school. So anyway, I'll let it go.
Other comments or questions from council? If not, I would entertain a motion for the grant award for Hayden Meadows Elementary Pedestrian Route Project.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the Hayden Meadows Elementary Pedestrian Route Grant Award.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further comments or questions? If not, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White? Yes. Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DeBreeze?
Yes.
And Council President Roder?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Our item number 6, our report, City Administrator Report and Calendar Review. Mr. Boyer.
I wanted to give you an update on the finance director position. We've conducted interviews, and we have the final couple folks that are on the top of the list, and we're doing some background checks. And so at the next meeting, we anticipate, because it's an appointed position, that we will be bringing a request for a vote by the council to support one of those actions. The plan is we would do a conditional offer on the condition, the council approving that person to be our finance director. So we had good candidates. The mayor participated in the second interviews, and we feel confident we have actually multiple candidates that are well qualified to do this job.
How many applicants did you get?
5. So was that, you want to bring up anything on Stoddard at this point, or you want to bring it back on the park? Not Stoddard, I'm sorry, Crawford. Sorry, I said Crawford.
Are you talking about the project, Brent?
Yeah,
So,
just let them know what's going on there.
yeah, I mean, it was in your council packet. And so you probably read the memo that we did. We also got great bids on Crawford Park. I think the engineer's estimate was like 2.3. We got quite a few bids on it, and I think, I don't have the number right in front of me, I'd have to find it, but it's around 1.9-ish roughly, or just under that. So that's quite a bit underneath. And it's funded in part, again, with some HER dollars, not 100%, but probably, I don't know the ratio. So I won't say that, but.
You might mention actually you weren't there, so at the HERA meeting,
Yes.
we're gonna need to go back to HERA to talk with them about the projects, the interaction between the reduction. You know, you tried to cut a couple things off at a request of HERA, and you did that, and it actually came in below, and I think we plan on going back and asking them to fully fund.
They already agreed to fund it.
So, well, in the meeting though, they wanted to know the numbers and all.
We need to get an agreement in front of them that would solidify how that's happening.
An agreement that you'll have to
So-
approve, so.
But they did agree to fund the project.
Prior to, so.
Yes, so,
But we did agree to cut some things, and then they want us to have a contract, so we'll come back to that. I think
so we're excited about that. That will also be happening this summer. It has to be basically completed or committed, I think, by the December 31st. We have one long lead item that will make that, I think, as long as it's committed, we've kind of heard that's not a problem. We have the bathroom facility, to get that is going to take some time. But it should be here by late in the in the calendar year.
So I was just going to move on to the Stoddard Park. We've had multiple graffiti tags in the last while that our guys have had to clean up. I think the third time here in the last while. And so one of the things we want to maybe add to the budget is money to run electrical to where the pavilion is on the north side and get some lighting there. Threw out the idea of maybe some solar lights until then.
I think maybe, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
we may need to get some cameras. They destroyed the handicap swing again.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
So they just painted and spray painted some things on some of the playground equipment. And so our guys did clean that up, but
And the tag seems to be the same group over and over again, so it would be nice to be able to work in a positive direction.
Can I ask, Deputy?
sir,
Yes.
Are we having any, I know you guys can't be there all the time, but are we increased trips through that area?
Yeah, so we got our first report of it 3 days ago, and then a couple subsequent ones since then. I took all three of them. They're all documented. It's been relayed to all of our patrols, so not just the Hayden guys, but also KCSO. So we got people hopefully coming in there at least once every 2 to 3 hours at minimum, and during the nighttime, once every hour.
Is there any guess what time of day this or night this is happening?
So all of them are happening between 8 o'clock at night and 8 in the morning is when, but that also falls with when people are going to bed, right? So the last time they saw the fence or the playground without it was around 8 p.m. and then 8 a.m. is when obviously they're going back. We don't have a dialed in time. I support cameras if we can get that, because that makes it super easy for us to be able to see who they are and identify them and prosecute them. That's one of the things that it'd be nice if the city over time could get a little bit better at, because if you look at Coeur d'Alene, they're able to solve a lot of crime with their city's camera systems and license plate readers. So in the future, it's not that it's tracking people, but it helps us catch those that are committing the crimes frequently.
And to go on top of that, as part of the Crawford Park design, we have included the ability to do that in the future. So it's being set up that
It's unfortunate, but it's the sign of the times.
so lighting the area is kind of a first step, and cameras, maybe we can look at that as well. But just get it lit so that maybe that'll help deter. So that was one, just to be aware if you've heard in the last while about just the graffiti out there. For recreation, dog days, the event at Stoddard Park is Saturday the 24th at 10 a.m. Just another little event that we put on. And I don't know, Susie, do you want to?
I mean, there's going to be a hot dog vendor out there and about 15 vendors otherwise, and then a bouncy house. And, you know, it's just people bring their pets and people make pet stuff. It's kind of a pet expo.
Hot dog vendor.
And I think the Kootenai County Sheriff's doing a canine demo as well.
We'll have a canine demo
Yep.
there.
What are the times for dog days?
I believe it's at 10. It's on our website on the calendar of events if anybody wants to look at more information about it. It's on there. And I think there's a Facebook post too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there is.
Last item, and basically transition to you. We did meet with the sheriff, working on the contract, and I think you were going to give an update.
It's brief. We're meeting with the sheriff and his undersheriff, and we know what we want. They're having a hard time hiring people right now, but we are working on success. At this point, I would hesitate to characterize other parts of the negotiations we have going on. Other roundtable items from council members. Mr. Satterfield.
We've had comments in the past couple meetings about when we start our city council meetings, budget meetings and stuff. So I just wanted to share a story. In 2008, when I was first elected, one of my first priorities to Mayor McIntyre at the time was to change the meeting hours to allow more people to participate. We actually got less participation in those hours. When we changed the hours, we changed them to 6 o'clock. And I guess I'd offer that, one, we have lives too. So, you know, and I know we signed on to represent the citizens, but we have lives as well. But I think the other thing is in today's world with so many people working from home, flexible work schedules, things like that, I guess I'm of the opinion if they want to come, they'll figure out a way.
And staff inconvenience too.
Yeah, and the staff. Yeah, I thank you for reminding me. Yeah, you know, it's not only expensive to keep staff here, except for you that are on
Salary.
salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they have lives too and they want to get home. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you.
The one good thing that we are doing, the recordings are going on live, and so that I think is helpful for people that at any time they can go on and watch the meetings. And I know that doesn't mean they can participate, but if there's something they can't come in. I've also had the situation where we looked at raising the times until after 6, 7 o'clock, and I had a mother come tell me that's when I'm putting my kids to bed, and so it was too late. So it's difficult maybe to find the perfect time, but I think we're trying to be transparent and allow the citizens to be here and participate.
Other comments, roundtable. Ms. White?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would like to leap off of that same idea. I know that we've knocked this idea around before, and I think that videotaping most or all of our meetings would solve a lot of that problem, because then people could, at their leisure, tune in and see what's transpiring. I believe that it would aid in transparency, and I would like this to be an agenda item on our next meeting, that we talk about videotaping more of the meetings, just to make it more transparent, more available. And that way we can include it in the budget of the costs involved in videotaping.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Roder?
Well, I just want to follow up with what Councilmember White said. The Planning and Zoning Commission is being videotaped and offered to the public. HURA, we have selected a company to do the videotaping for us at $60 an hour, and this meeting is available to the public. What are we missing as far as meetings, is my question.
Workshops is what we're missing at this point. We are not video recording workshops. Our past reason for not videoing the workshops is that we hope that without cameras sticking in their face, that council members may have an opportunity to speak more freely about issues that concern them without having to take a vote. However, I certainly understand Ms. White's point, and that's the reason that we're at where we're at now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Thank you for coming tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and hanging with us. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
There's
Oh,
one executive
oh, that's
session.
right. We are not adjourning. We are not adjourning.
I'll make the motion that we go into executive session based on Idaho Code 74-2061C and Idaho Code 74-2061F.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Break. We have a roll call vote, please.
Can I ask a question really quick? Is it both or just one?
We really just need the one that I'm aware of,
One?
the C.
Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White,
Yes to C.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember Dupree.
Yes.
And Council President Roder.
Yes.
Break.
One need one.
We have a
In
break.
HURA, Pete told us we got to take both.
Yeah.
Because we had the same two.
Well, if it's that.